There was a small boy who was born onto the streets of a great city. So from the very earliest age, he had to learn survival skills, the street smarts. And not only that, but he had to hone his intuitive abilities, his sensibilities, and also to learn to relate to all levels of being that passed along the streets of that great city. But one day he came into the presence of a great Sufi master, and by this time he had become a master thief. But in the presence of the great Sufi master, his abilities enabled him to recognize the illustrious quality of this being. So making salutations to him, he asked the Sufi master, "Can you help me to become successful in whatever heist I undertake?" "Yes," said the Sufi master, "I give you my blessing." So the young thief went out and became even more successful at what he was doing. And he came back to the Sufi master to thank him. And the Sufi master said, "I'm not satisfied with your success. Why don't you ask others to join you?" So the young thief asked several others to join him, and they became even more successful in their thievery. He went back to the Sufi master again. The Sufi master said, "I am still not satisfied with your level of success. Why don't you make a small band of robbers?" So this is what the young man did. And they were very, very successful in their thievery. But then he went back to the Sufi master again. The Sufi master said, "Well, now you have a band, but it seems that you are like a small army, and I'm not satisfied with your degree of success. Why don't you use your abilities to overthrow those oppressors who have taken over our country?" And indeed, this is what the young man and his small army did. They were able to set the oppressors of their city on their heels and liberated the people from this tyranny. Now, without doubt, this young man would have gone on to make himself an empire and become king. But he died. But indeed we can recognize that he fulfilled what it was that was there for him to do. And then there's another story about this young being who was born into the lowest caste of the great land of India. But his parents had great hopes for him, that like his father and his father before him, and indeed all their family, that they would work diligently, even though they were ordained to be in this lowly place. But instead, from the earliest age, this young man, the only talent that he was able to present to the world was his ability to thieve. He became a petty thief, and very successful at it too. So as his success grew, his aspirations grew, and he decided that he wanted to steal a ruby of the great Shah who ruled that place. But as it happened, he successfully obtained the ruby. But as he was leaving, he happened to step on the tail of a cat who was lying outside the Shah's door, which set out such a scream and sound that it woke up all the servants and the people in the palace, and they hotly pursued him as he ran off. Well, he dropped the ruby along the way, but as fortune would have it, just as he was leaving the palace gates, a entourage of people heading with a body to the cremation grounds was passing by. So he immediately joined that group of people, and in their midst he started to beat his chest and wail, so that when the servants and others came running, they could not differentiate him from any of the other mourners. And of course it would not have done for them to interrupt an entourage such as this on their sacred mission to burn a body. So our thief went along to the cremation grounds, where after the ceremonies of burning the body, he decided that he would have to remain there and lie low for a while, because he would still be hotly pursued. But as he was there in the cremation grounds, it happened that he saw an old hermit sitting behind one of the tombstones that dotted this cemetery cremation ground, who happened to be a yogi. So being bored with having to spend this time in solitude in this place, he went up to the old sage hermit yogi and said, "What are you doing here?" And the yogi said, "I'm doing a sadhana." "Now why?" said the thief. And the yogi replied, "I am wanting to go beyond the wheel of births and deaths, to be free, to be liberated." And the thief said, Well, what does that mean? It doesn't sound very interesting to me." But the yogi explained to the thief what it is that occurs when one is freed from all desires and all fears. And the thief said, "Well, I would like to be there, but is there some way I could do this? Because, I'm a busy man. I can't afford to sit in this cremation ground indefinitely contemplating." "Oh," said the yogi, "yes, I can give you a practice." And so the yogi said to the thief, "Not far from here, there is a temple. Go to that temple, and in that temple you will find a sacred statue. Circumnavigate that statue for 21 days and 21 nights without ceasing. After this, you will find that there is a serpent that will emerge. You must grab that serpent by its throat without fear and without hesitation, and see what will happen. So the thief, going by night because he still was being pursued, went to where the great sage Yogi suggested, that temple. And as soon as he entered the temple, he could feel an atmosphere such as he'd never experienced before. And there was the statue. So he began his circumambulations. After some days, the hunger, the thirst, the fatigue dropped away from him totally. And after the 21 days, as was predicted, a great serpent unwound itself from the base of the statue and slithered towards him. Without hesitation and without fear, he grabbed the serpent behind its head and held it high. Just then there seemed to be a great thunder and light appear and be heard in that temple. And as he held the serpent, it became a great sword that before his eyes and in his hand became a flame. An extraordinary thing happened. Not only was there no fatigue, thirst, hunger, those things of the earthly realm, but all of the accretions, the past eons and eons of time, seemed to fall away from him. After this, he knew his task. This master, the thief, became one of the greatest teachers of his time. What can you glean as the essence, the core of these two stories about a thief as they are, and yet different, but with a common essence? What is it that arises in you as the deep point of these stories?
It's interesting that